The 1963 March on Washington was a seminal event in American history.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream.
Afterwards, March leaders met with President Kennedy and Vice President Johnson at the White House. The focus of their talk? Comprehensive federal civil rights legislation. More of their conversation after this. We begin with NAACP leader Roy Wilkins pressing President Kennedy on who is taking credit for what and how to leverage that for votes in Congress.
Mr. President, we somewhat hesitated in making a comparison which wouldn't sound well, but it fits in a backhand way with giving them some credit. In the sense that it gives an inverse power to their veto by saying that there once was a time when civil rights legislation had to pass the deep Southern Dixiecrat opposition, but now it has to pass the Republican approval. Well, this is a backhand way of irritating Mr. Halleck and all the rest of them, but actually it's come to the place where we have to consider whether Republicans will go for this or go for that or vote for this or vote for that. And I wish there were some way, Reverend Blake, we could find out how to please them and yet not surrender our own honest feelings on this matter. They need to have credit for what they did introduce a package of bills, as we told them this morning, and thank you for doing it. What they didn't urge those bills, so on and so forth. You mentioned on two or three occasions those crazy business you guys have talked about that your people never seem to appreciate. The thing that's funny to me about separating the package is I'm sure that there are people who will vote for, say, the package as it now is, and then say we're on record, so right now we'll vote against the FEPC or we'll vote against something else. They need to reverse it. And all of these are, at this moment in time, so basic. So basic that I'd rather have the fall on something that can be meaningful, because most of the package, with the exception of the training line, really affects home in the South. And the big problem we're facing today, and I know it, so we've got to give these people something to hold on to. I wish they would pick up the FEPC Republic if they really want to get something that would be really useful. They would make that their contribution to it in their issue. This is the problem of the constituency in this crowd that I represent. We ought to be able to do more with those Midwest senators than anybody else here. I mean, they're your people. And I'm not experienced in this, except that I'm hoping that list of 100 and so on, that not only do they sign their names, but they also pick up the phone and call their senator. We're trying to get people with nonpartisan groups of church and labor and industry behind the package. One of your distinguished lay leaders could be a big help in Mr. Luce. You know, from that member of your, yes, and that's the one. A lot of the Mr. President, from the description you made of the state of affairs in the House and Senate, it's obvious that it's going to take nothing less than a crusade to win approval for these civil rights measures. I think it'd be helpful. It's going to be a crusade, and I think that nobody can lead this crusade but you. Well, I think
party that you support, I think you ought to say your confidence, and go ahead and come forward now, just great parents, Lincoln and all the rest, and just treat it as if you anticipated their support. Yeah, I know some more difficult for them. Don't you think that President Mark made any impression upon the hard-boiled? Put it in. I'm sure it will. What did that have to? Never changed the same person. But then, a lot of those fellows think that the Negroes have always been more inclined to be Democrats, and that what they're trying to do is play the South and with some success these days, and what we have to do is have them understand, and it is a fact that this issue goes much beyond the Negro community. So I think that it would be helpful to indicate that you expect the Republicans to finally go to do it, because they got too great a commitment in their whole party's history not to support a progressive civil rights. Let's just take it for granted for a while. Well, they make it a little more difficult for them to vote no. And then John Pine was this room, I was amazed to find that for a while I had finance up to that as a Negro editor come to this meeting and try to talk to all of us as much as possible to let us know that the senator was not trying to build a white Republican party, that he was for civil rights legislation, he voted for it, which means that he still feels, I think, that he doesn't want yet to give up completely the possibility of what two Negro votes the Republicans have got. To me, it was encouraging just to hear this. I think we ought to give a chance. That's right. I agree with that. I think we ought to go on the assumption we're going to get them. The fact is, it's just a Negro issue, and therefore, so many Republicans are involved, and the church groups are involved many with them, and I think we ought to go on the assumption we're going to get 60 votes. And I'll leave it this way here, and we can maintain this contact with Walter, perhaps as the liaison on this legislation, if we think that we can get the vote for it. You see, I'm all for it. I think it would be easier then to get it. On the other hand, someday I'll have to come down and tell us what he will vote for. Those are the hard figures. There's the Vice President up there to say something.
I think if you outline the problem, the men themselves, I mean, what having said this meeting here, you wouldn't leave the FEDC. Now we have to go, as I said to you last time here, the office space here, read off the list, and you see what here they are. will you be for? And before he left, I wrote him a note and said, be sure to ask Alec here's what he will support. But he wanted to go back and study and study and study. Now, we've studied since May. So it all gets down to how many of those people can you get and how do we get them.
I think the key is what the Protestant church can do, because the whole Midwest, I mean, there are no labor unions, Protestant church, and I think what we can get the business community to do. I think we can get some key businessmen. Now, I heard a meeting of the National Advisory of the Business Council, and that was the worst meeting we had all summer. They sat on their tails, and they walked out, and the president said there's going to be more demonstrations and stuff. That's all we could get out. We had all the golden names of American business at that meeting, 120 of them. So I want to think we got to get a small group, small nucleus of those fellows who are prepared really to shake the business community up, or otherwise you can't do it. Show me anything about business community. Not sure. I guess they should probably just say that in Detroit, I went to these fellows. I went to the president of General Motors Corporation. I talked to Young Henry Ford. I talked to Lynn Townsend, president of Chrysler. I talked to all of them. I said, look, you can't escape this problem. Now, there are two ways of resolving it, either by reason or by riots. Now, in the Civil War that this is going to trigger, it's not going to be fought in Gettysburg. It's going to be in your backyard, your plant, where your kids are growing up. I got them all. I get the president of General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Vanderbilt Motor, all to serve on a local civil rights committee. Now, we got to do that in the whole nation. We're going to get fellows like Tom Watson and Joe Block, who are the more enlightened ones, to say to us, you better sit down with your fellows and tell them, look, this country's in trouble and you have to help meet this challenge. We've got to get this problem behind us. American democracy has got to resolve this basic internal problem. And they've got to help do it. And I think that we can get a dozen of those fellows to really, pick it up as though they had a chore to do. Then you could make an impact. You call a big meeting, and you haven't got a little group organized in advance to try to give it a sense of direction and a little push. Nothing will happen. I think it's true to labor movement. I mean, we couldn't. Phil Randolph and I couldn't mind it in the AFL-CIO Executive Council office. So we're not going to quit.
Well, I'm going to support this idea of being a sort of businessman. I've also been involved here. I don't think this is negative reason. It's increasing, actually. Yeah. And then we get one of the amount of alternatives.
I support this too. I think the business committee has changed its mind about the FEPC thing, and it hasn't got to church Congress yet. I think their reaction to FEPC is completely different from the reaction to these other things that we were talking to them about. I think they would love to settle for making this one theirs as far as civil rights are concerned. Frank says I share quite fully the view that if I were going at this thing right now, I would go at it on the assumption that we found in Illinois last year, to some extent, we were fighting in the legislature. I think the business community has changed its mind, and I go after Congress through the business community. And I rather think it could be brought around at this point more easily than on almost any other in the program.
Except there's one new technique.
I don't like some of the reasons for what I said.
Yeah. There's one new technique. When you call them together, it would be very useful to have 1, 2, or 3 responsible civil rights leaders in the room. This makes all the difference in the world. When nobody else is around. But you have 1 or 2 of them. Let them tell the rule of the people. I think it's a big difference. But don't understate me. We don't want to understate Title 3. This is very, very important.
Mr. President, do you think if we could appeal to the moral conscience of President Eisenhower on this issue and seek to get him okay, do you think this will influence Mr. Howard?
had a few people like this together, maybe with your invitation, we need somebody from the Roman Catholic Church who will influence Eisenhower as much as I can. I mean, that this is a moral issue. Now, he can be got on that ground. But if he thinks I'm trying to push him, but if we can get this interreligious thing that we're doing, and it would seem to me maybe a group of the tough senators and Eisenhower and some religious leaders and some of your civil rights leaders together and just say we've got to get this thing out, and how can we do it?
Now, what about your going up to see? I think there's a lot of attention on this group and today's successful meeting. There'll be more. What about you going to see him in the next few days? I'll be asking if you can come with this group, and then you can add there's some Catholic or some one or two other people who you think would be useful, and see if he wants to call the president, ask if he will support this thing. Now, I don't know what it is. I think he may give you an ambiguous answer, but on the other hand, it's possible it may have some effect on it. What about your going up to see him and have it publicized and have everybody know you joined? Then he has to say yes or no. Using this meeting as an example, not having anything to do with me having anything to do with it, it's just separate from us.
It'd be a mistake to indicate that you ever talked here about it. Well, the president fled with him in this room. I said that before we sent the message. And urged him to make suggestions, asked him to go along and join us. I think we're doing a job.
I think to give people who wouldn't keep all of the background noise.
I was watching nothing when I said
One or two others. If you get the Catholic, one of the bishops, and also maybe another businessman or two. And see him, I think it would be very useful right now. I'm just going to put out, when you leave, the press will be after you. And I wondered whether you had a spokesman come to me or think about it. Well, I think probably it's not me. I have a statement which I'm going to put out, very briefly, what it's going to say. We witnessed today in Washington tens of thousands of Americans, both legal and quiet, exercising their right to assemble peaceably and direct the widest possible attention to a great national issue. Efforts to secure equal treatment and equal opportunity for all without regard to race, color, creed, or nationality are neither novel nor difficult to understand. What is different today is the intensified and widespread public awareness of the need to move forward in achieving these objectives which are all in this nation. Well, this summer has seen remarkable progress in translating civil rights from principles into practice. We have a very long way yet to travel. One cannot help but be impressed with the deeper and quiet leadership characterized for thousands who have gathered in the nation's capital from across the country to demonstrate their faith and confidence in our democratic form of government. History has seen many demonstrations of widely varying character for a whole host of reasons. As our thoughts travel other demonstrations that have occurred in different parts of the world, this nation can properly be proud of the demonstrations that occur here today. The leaders of the organizations sponsoring the march and all who participated in it deserve our appreciation. The detailed preparation has made it possible and for the orderly manner in which it's been conducted. The executive branch of the federal government will continue its efforts to obtain increased employment and to eliminate discrimination in employment practices, two of the prime goals of the march. In addition, our efforts to secure enactment of legislative proposals made to Congress will be maintained, including not only the Civil Rights Bill, but also proposals to broaden and strengthen the Manpower Development and Training Program, the Youth Employment Bill, amendments to the Vocational Education Program, the establishment of a work-study program for high school age youth, strengthening the Adult Basic Education Division, the Administration Education Program, and the amendments proposed to the Public Welfare Work Relief and Training Program. This nation can afford to achieve the goals of a full employment policy. It cannot afford to commit the potential skills and educational capacity of citizens to be unrealized. Of course, the 20 million Negroes have been advanced by the program conducted so appropriately before the nation's shrine of great emancipation, and even more significant is the contribution of all mankind. So we'll put that out. If you leave, the enemy or our views of history that we take and cover it.
Part 3 is this. So that
included what we talked about. We just talked about the civil rights. I know that in the NAACP. No, but no, I think that's not good.
That is something that we should call your attention to. This probably most particular out of two organizations here. That is not segregation in the armed services. Particularly in the state of North Carolina, we have attempted to contact Mr. McNamara and requested them to go. Now, we realize that time is of the essence, particularly in the military town. Taking the sheriff of North Carolina, Goldsboro, these other points where these soldiers are located. The soldiers have been denied the right to demonstrate. Sooner or later, I'm afraid that soldiers will demonstrate. This is a problem that I'm especially taking in the room here. I think that I don't know how the chain of command runs or the commander-in-chief of armed services in the army. I think that's probably the reserve officer deserves more attention.
I think that we're giving a good deal of thought, and as you know, there have been several statements made, and Secretary McNamara made another. I'm concerned about troops demonstrating at the time, because it's always hard to control a demonstration, possibly, and then we have arrests, troops, and so on. I think that it's not help us right now. I think I want to get the bill by, and our judgment was that troops demonstrating this summer would not help us here. So that's why the order that was put out was put restraints on troops was made with my approval. Now, that was our best judgment. But there is no alternative. I'm not going to permit it all because it's a lot of work. We're looking into North Carolina, one of the states who the evidence of the discrimination against servicemen. This only the beginning of what's going to come in that matter in the future. I mean, to say to you.
They declare the town of off limits, of course, then the problem is.
Well, we got a lot of interesting things that can be done as time goes on. And this whole effort for the request of troops, that really got us right now. I want to express thanks to you for coming and to tell you you did a great job and very helpful for all of us. We will stay in touch with you through WALA and particularly on this question of the head counts. I think when you go out, it would be a good time to indicate, Mr. Randolph, your strong judgment that both parties would be supporting the right thing. And I think we can start that theme. It would be very useful. Maybe we'll get this thing so bipartisan that it's better.
From August 28, 1963, a meeting between President Kennedy and Vice President Johnson and the leaders of the March on Washington. Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., United Auto Workers President Walter Reuther, John Lewis, Chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Negro American Labor Council President A. Phillip Randolph, former National Council of Churches President Reverend Eugene Carson Blake, National Urban League Executive Director Whitney Young, Floyd McKissick from the Congress of Racial Equality, and NAACP Executive Director Roy Wilkins. Less than a year later, on July 2, 1964, those men would stand in the White House East Room with President Lyndon Johnson as he signed the Civil Rights Act.
We must not approach the observance and enforcement of this law in a vengeful spirit. Its purpose is not to punish. Its purpose is not to divide, but to end divisions, divisions which have lasted all too long. Its purpose is national, not regional. This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country. So, tonight I urge every public official, every religious leader, every business and professional man, every working man, every housewife, I urge every American to join in this effort to bring justice and hope to all our people, and to bring peace to our land.
Our thanks to the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum, the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum, the University of Virginia Miller Center, and WGBH Boston. To hear more behind-the-scenes conversations about the civil rights movement, check out Season 1 of Presidential Recordings, featuring President Johnson talking with members of Congress, his administration, and family in secretly recorded conversations.